Welcome back to the weekend wrap. No production, just my thoughts. As always, please like and subscribe and share with a friend, a colleague, a relative, an associate, an enemy, and anyone in between. I don't want to make this one too long, so I guess we might as well start with what happened in the UK. There's a few other bits and pieces that did actually take place, not just in terms of boxing, but some other things that happened over the weekend. However, we'll get to that in a little while. I said the UK. I actually meant Poland, just on the UK time. Now, the undercard as such, didn't really pay much attention to. Look, we had the, we had the debut of Prince Adam Hamed. It was what it was. It was supposed to be a straight blowout of an overmatched opponent. That's exactly what it was. The guy looked about 3 or 4 weight classes below Adam realistically. Very small, very fleshy. I heard something about him being 17. I don't know if that's true, but yeah, he, overmatched. Shouldn't really have been in there, to be totally honest. That was no test. But Adam, who has no amateur or professional career to speak of, it was what it was. He made his debut. Denis Berinchyk versus Anthony Yigit. Now that was an interesting fight, and I am surprised that Berinchyk, being in front of so many of his home supporters, didn't do more to go for a stoppage. There were several times when he did look like he had it in him, and yeah, he just didn't sort of push forward. So that was the first L on my accumulator. I did think he'd be able to get out of there by around the 8th round. Didn't quite work out, but he did get the victory. The last round of that fight was actually very good. They both just made the gentleman's agreement, stand in the middle of the ring and trade, and that's what they done. It was it's probably one of the best final rounds I've ever watched. There wasn't a huge amount of power on each individual shots, but they, toes was just dug into the ground. It was a bit like the first round of Hagler Hearns. Not on the same skill level, not on the same danger level, but just to have that kind of energy in the last round, it was impressive. That's pretty much what I'll say. Now, let's move to the main event, which was Alexander Usyk versus Daniel Dubois. Now, interestingly enough, obviously, Dubois came out to reggae music, definitely sort of channeling that Lennox Lewis type vibe, or guys of the older generation where, you draw energy, you draw inspiration, you draw confidence from your island or from your continent, and, you just get that the ancestors and all of that just earthly energy into you. And he came out, he was smiling, he was happy, he kept looking back for somebody, but he didn't look like he was nervous or anything at that particular point, which it said it looked like he's in a good mind frame and a good state of mind. Usyk, on the other hand, when he walks out now, I remember he walked out and there was no looking at the crowd, there was no addressing anything. He came out like, okay, there's a job to do, let's hurry up and get this done. He had the energy about him it wasn't just a determination. It looked almost vengeful, almost like I've been disrespected, so it's time to show some gumption here, and it's time to really put a hurting on people. And when they went into the ring, that's when Daniel looked a bit more tentative, just before the opening bell. Now, I'm not going to get into any breakdown of the fight because we will do that on Tuesday on the breakdown. Got a little surprise for you guys. I'm going to drop it here first, so those of you who watch this will know before anyone else. I've actually spoke with Johnny Nelson. He's agreed to come on the show, so we're going to be having a little bit of a chat with him, and in that frame I will also be getting his thoughts on this fight and some other things that have happened, as well as a few other bits and pieces, just so you know that from now. But yeah, also I watched the fight back a little while ago, just because I wanted to double check a few things that I was about to say and wanted to make sure I wasn't actually incorrect in what I was saying. Now, a lot of people was saying ultimately that Usyk wears his guard and his trunks high. That's actually not the case, because when I was watching the fight, I was watching from round one, just specifically to make sure, and every sort of every time he moved, you could see his belly button like sort of pop up and sometimes pop back down at the top of the band, at the top of the waistband, which means that it was, while it's not like always visible, like it's there right at the top, so you know that's basically where, you know, sort of where the waistband is. And obviously that's very important for later on in the fight. But ultimately he stepped to the front of the ring. From the start, controlled aggression. Daniel tried to lunge in with a sort of a sweeping left hook come jab at the start, which was avoided, and then within 11 seconds Usyk landed the first jab to the face, and you kind of, the pattern was just starting to repeat itself. So you go there, then the backhand started getting introduced from round 2. Daniel at this point was very tentative, and it looks like the nerves at that point were starting to get to him. I felt like he would maybe try and make more of an effort to not barrel forward, but to try and close the distance and just get tight and throw shots from the start. But I had the feeling that Usyk's movement and his general work rate would just make Dubois hesitant to throw something until his feet were set, and every time he's tried to get his feet set, Usyk could move around the target. There was a period in the fight, I can't remember what round it was, but I heard Don Charles in the corner saying step to your left, because Daniel kept moving towards his right hand side, which is obviously what Usyk kind of wanted him to do. But stepping to the left is obviously, I guess, where the trouble came with the initial knee problem from the last fight. So it was just about how he was going to make that adjustment. Now we ultimately, let's get to the I guess the big talking point of the fight. So basically the first 4 rounds, it was all Usyk. Dubois had minimal success. He did throw a couple punches. There's some stuff that maybe landed on the gloves. I think he had 1 or 2 jabs that landed around the facial area, and I think there was 1 backhand as well that grazed Usyk, but the rest of it sort of hit gloves, hit arms, etc. So then we get to the quote-unquote body shot in round 5. Now, when I first saw it, the first thing I thought in real time, and this is before the replay came out, I said, oh, that's low, that looks low to me. The entire glove landed on waist, sort of on the waistband and just below the bottom of the waistband. It was all trunk. There was no skin that was touched in the shot. At the force of it, like I've been hit in that spot before. It's not a nut shot, so yes, it's nothing to do with your testicles as such, but being hit there in that particular area, it's like it's almost also hitting like that pelvic bone, and that's a very, very debilitating part of the body. Like you can't really walk properly after that. Not just that, the fact that it was an arcing shot, which means that it's hit like at the bottom of the top part of the cup or the guard, and it's brought the guard up, and obviously bringing the guard up is where you then get that damage from the testicles and everything like that. And so it's almost like a dragging feeling, and you feel every inch of that shot. And it's not like it was a light tap or just like there was a lot of power in that shot. So yeah, a lot of people have said, well, I bet if the referee started counting, he would have got up. He probably would have. He would have had to. It would have been interesting to see what happened for the rest of that round, because you could see that he was visibly distressed by that shot. So if he had have got up, I doubt he would have been able to run around the ring and sort of walk it off, so to speak. So either Daniel Dubois could have got close and maybe tried to throw a few combinations and possibly stopped him in that moment while he was still debilitated and incapacitated, or Usyk would have been able to do similar with what he done with Anthony Joshua, used a bit of his like that sambo training that he's had previously and just tied up Dubois' arms and just tried to just shake it out and ride out that moment and ride out that damage. But he was given 3.5 minutes to recover. He didn't take the full 5, which he was entitled to. Daniel didn't complain. Don Charles didn't complain. I didn't hear anyone in the corner screaming to the ref, count him, it was legal, it was legal. I didn't hear any of that. So there's a, you know, it's all well and good raging after the fact, but like you saw it in real time and you didn't protest or say anything. So at that point, why, you know, so why make up a big drama afterwards? Anyway, long story short, Usyk got up and ended up winning the rest of that round. Daniel had a moment of success for about 30 seconds after that, 30 to 45 seconds, and then Usyk basically took back over the rest of the round. Hurt Daniel very badly towards the back of the round and sort of went for him and was actually taking more chances than he usually does at that particular point. Sixth round is the only one I actually gave to Daniel Dubois. I felt like he landed a lot of good body shots in that one, a couple of decent headshots, and even though I think Usyk still maybe outstruck him overall, like you could see that the damage was taking its toll, and it almost looked like Daniel was becoming the aggressor at that particular point. Usyk, being the master that he is, he always has a moment when someone hurts him or has a very good round against him, he always takes the next round. And that's what he done in the seventh. He took that round like almost to say, no, you're not gaining any further momentum in this fight. You had a good round there. When we're gonna take that one back, you're gonna have to reset and go again. And at this point, Usyk's legs are kind of, it slowed down a bit, which is understandable. Like after that fifth round, you could never be as fleet. He was probably still feeling that shot, so he wasn't as fleet-footed, but he was still too quick for Daniel. And at this point, the pace was starting to get to Daniel. He was starting to run out of ideas. He was just looking for single shots at this point. There was no trying to set things up. There was no throwing punches in combinations to try and see if one lands. He was just looking for that single shot every now and again in between barrages of just getting his head jabbed off, and you know, that backhand just started coming into play a lot more. Usyk was starting to step around the target and swing left hooks from the, you know, sort of from the side angle, which Daniel was managing to, he was evading some, but he was catching some as well. Usyk even then started to go to the body just a little bit to lower the guard, to make Daniel think about that. And it's funny, we talk about guards in this whole thing because Daniel Dubois' guard was actually a lot higher than Usyk's was. Like his guard was around the top two, his third and fourth ab. So his guard was actually quite a bit over his belly buttons. So it would have made more sense if Usyk was trying to throw punches to his waistband, but all of Usyk's punches were above the waistband when he was going for the body. Daniel, there were several times in actually, as Daniel was, he tried to headbutt a couple of times. I did see that he did try going lead with his head. There was more than that one low blow. There was several others that were very low. There was one he hit him at the back of the, you know, almost like on the buttock, you know, underneath the guard, underneath the waistband. So he did throw quite a few in that region. I guess it was the whole point is, where if I can slow him down there, then I'll get to the head later on. But you know, Usyk complained about a few of them. The ref said no, some of them was acceptable. But then there's a couple others where when the shot was going in, the ref just motioned to Daniel, keep it up. So overall, I don't feel like he was he was hard done by, or that he was biased against Dubois, or like he didn't show him any favor whatsoever. He allowed multiple infringements of low shots without taking any points or giving any stern warnings or whatever. So yeah, round 7, 8, pretty much same thing. Right at the end of round 8, Daniel Dubois gets hit high on the head. One first with the jab, the second one just sort of grazes at the top. Then as he stumbles, he slips down just a bit and then gets caught with a little short uppercut, and then takes the knee, looks at his corner, he's looking at the ref, looks at his corner, acknowledges, nods his head, and he gets up. But he gets up very late on, like sort of 8.75, he jumps up, and then kind of like just after 9 is counted, he's just up on his feet. So the ref looks, waves it, says he's about to go on, bell goes. Following round, basically it's the same scenario. Usyk's just up in the tempo. He goes down again off of it was a power jab. It was a very powerful jab. You heard it, but he dropped like it took his legs away, which I don't know if it did enough for that, if I'm totally honest. But he dropped down on all fours, gets to the knee, looks at the ref, looks at his corner, acknowledges the corner, looks back. The ref says 8, the ref says 9, and basically after the ref has said 9 is when he's getting to his feet, but he doesn't get up like spring up, like he's basically at the count of 10 is when he's fully standing, or as the count of 10 would be, and the ref waves it off. Now here's the question. Just like in the Joe Joyce fight, did Daniel Dubois quit? I gotta say yes. In that particular moment, he wasn't. You look at him, you can see that he's not, banged up and beat up. His face isn't bloodied. His eye isn't. You can tell that there's no, damage to the eye like the last time, which was obviously the separate eye. There's no physical facial damage. He hasn't been, taking, supreme punishment for the entire fight. He's tired. He's exhausted. Everything that he's tried hasn't worked. His best shot of winning the fight has just come and gone. The pressure's just getting on top. He's taken a shot he hasn't liked. He's gone down, and being very lucid and very aware of his surroundings, he's decided to basically take the count and then raise up at virtually 10, just like what happened with the Joe Joyce fight. So it's very succinct actually that I got Johnny Nelson coming on the breakdown, because I remember there was an interview he said the other day, like, that boy's got quit in him, and we've seen it before and we will see it again. Once it's there, it's always there, kind of thing. That's definitely it. So I remember Simon Jordan one time called Anthony Joshua a flat track bully. I think that would probably more apply to Daniel. Like, when it's going his way, he's destructive, and he's a wrecking ball, and he's vicious and violent. But when the pressure gets too much or he runs out of answers, it's almost like he looks for a way out. To be fair, he was kind of looking for a way out of the Kevin Lorena fight as well. But Shane McGuigan was like, no, we're not doing that. Like, we're gonna get through this. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think he handles adversity well, and that's not going to be the best trait moving forward when you are now in this kind of position. I think he was saying some talks of after the fight, like, if I don't win this fight, I'm going to retire, or he was in the ring saying I'm going to retire. And while I don't necessarily agree with that, it almost makes sense. So you just challenged for a world title. You can't go back to fighting the level of opponents that you was fighting before. So you have to now be fighting top 10, top 15 consistently to get yourself back to a world title shot. These guys are all going to be decidedly better than who you've been fighting. Are you really in that mindset? Do you really want to go through that? And I don't know if he does, because again, I don't think he handles adversity well. And I guess now he knows that he can be hurt. Last time you could say, oh, well, look, the eye was broken, innit? So that makes sense. But this time, that wasn't the case. You were just out fought, out jabbed, out punched, outgunned, outmaneuvered, and you couldn't really do anything about it apart from land a Hail Mary shot, which wasn't really going to happen. So yeah, it's going to be interesting how these match moving forward. Now, Frank Warren and Don Charles are basically saying they're going to appeal to the WBA to have the decision even made a no contest, or to have an immediate rematch ordered. That appeal isn't going to go anywhere whatsoever. Even if there wasn't the prospect of undisputed on the horizon, everyone can see from the shot, from all the stills of the image of everything, like, none of his glove landed on flesh. The whole glove was under the waistband or on the waistband, which tells you that by the letter of the law, where it's between the navel and the pelvic bone, that's where the shot landed. It landed in a place that was unnatural. It landed lower than it should have been, and it was an arcing shot as well. If it was a straight shot, you might have had more of an appeal, or if it was like a hook, which was on the same trajectory, but it came from down under and rose up. Like, you're not going to get that overturned or any kind of rematch be called. It's just not going to happen. I think he basically just said that kind of to save face. But if I'm totally honest, I said this on Twitter and I'm going to say it now so people can see my face when I say it. Personally, I think Frank Warren failed Daniel Dubois in this one, because if he either failed it, well, he failed him either way, because number one, I don't think he believed that Daniel could really win this fight. But you hold out hope to say, well, if you get all the belts on this side, then Undisputed becomes a lot easier, and it's just an easier payday for Tyson Fury to get to those belts if a Hail Mary shot goes in. But I don't think he believed in Daniel Dubois really, because if he did, he would have made sure, no matter what it took, to have won that purse bid, to give Daniel every single chance of home advantage, to kind of get the ref that you want to get, the judges you want to get, make sure that all the rules are in strict compliance with the BBBOC, as opposed to, I guess, maybe the Polish Boxing Federation, or because their rule book might be slightly different. The rules might be slightly different there. You know, you have more say on who the judges, like who the judges are, who the referee is. Like, you can dictate more of that. You can make Usyk stay in the country uncomfortable if you really want to. Like, you can do whatever you want to give your guy the best possible chance to win that fight, because he needed every single advantage he could get, and you basically left him with none. And yeah, look, I personally feel that, I'm not saying Frank is bad for that, but I just genuinely believe he truly didn't believe that Daniel was going to win that. And now the narrative is just going to be built, well, he's the uncrowned king because it was a legal shot and blah blah blah. Well, I'm sorry, if that was the case, you had 3 rounds after that shot to get it done, and you didn't. You can't tell me, oh well, yeah, he started, they start to cool down after the 3 minutes, and he got his legs back. I mean, Usyk's legs were never the same after that 5th round. So yes, he was still moving well, but if you really wanted to, just pile in. At that point, make it dirty, grab him, push him up against the ropes. Don't let him spin off the target. Just hold a hand up high and just literally hook him and just hit with the other hand, and just keep doing that. Yeah, even if you get a point taken off, but just make it as dirty as you can to get, to rip that belt away from him. But he didn't have that in the locker. He didn't capitalize on the success that he had. So yeah, like I said, I think Frank done him a disservice. I don't think he really believed that he was going to win, because if he did, like I said, he would have lost money to win that purse bid, to make sure Daniel had every advantage, just so he could then make that in-house undisputed fight and then make the money back that he lost. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that one. Moving quickly over to the top rank card. So FA Jagba and Zan Kossobutskiy. Okay, so I got this one wrong because I did predict that Kossobutskiy was going to get the KO. However, I'm actually not happy with the way that fight turned out, because if we're talking about low blows from the Daniel Dubois one, well, that fight was low blow central, and the low blows started with FA Jagba. And I don't know if Zan Kossobutskiy speaks any English whatsoever, if he understands anything, but every time he was looking at the ref like, look where he's hitting me, and the ref's just looking back at him like, I almost like, what's the problem? But I was watching this, I was watching the fight, and I saw several times that's a low shot, and the ref doesn't even like motion to keep it up, to the point where after 2 rounds, Zan's like, okay, you're not going to do anything about this. Okay, cool. If you're not going to do something, then I will instead. Now, I'm going to be real. He shouldn't have been doing what he done, because he went straight for the nutsacks. There was no ambiguity about where his shots were traveling. Like, he was in close and he was digging those straight up, straight to the crown jewels. And there was the first one, folded FA Jagba over. He ended up getting a point taken for that. Then you got another point taken for a shot that was, it was at the side of it was on the waistband. I don't know if the ref said it was because of the low blow, but I thought it was because he sort of threw a shot at a Jagba as the ref was sort of stepping in. But no, the ref said it was a low blow. But that one didn't seem as low at all. Part of his glove was touching flesh, and the other part was touching the waistband. So I thought, okay, well, cool. So he got 2 points taken away there. The next round, a Jagba comes out and he actually hits him low again on 2 occasions, and the ref does admonish him on one, but the other one he lets it go. And Zahn at this point is like, okay, so if you're not gonna do anything about this, then I'm going to. And then ultimately he hits a Jagba with another low blow, and he gets disqualified in the 4th round. I think Jean Kossobutskiy had that WBA international belt. So FA Jagba ended up winning that. Don't really know if we'll see Kossobutskiy on the American shores again. He might do, but prior to all of those low blows, he was actually getting some really good work off on the Jagba. He was able to slip inside the jab, inside the reach. He caught him with several very heavy backhands, and I feel like he was on his way to doing what he needed to do, which is what I thought he was gonna do. But yeah, it is what it is. I didn't like Christina Poncher and Chris Algieri's commentary, basically saying he didn't want it, he was looking for a way out, when neither of them acknowledged any of the shots that were low. Okay, yeah, he wasn't getting hit in the nutsack, but they were low shots, and I felt that they were being a little bit biased to the home fighter. Even though I think Kossobutskiy might have he doesn't have a co-promotional deal with Top Rank, but I feel like they was being biased towards him by not acknowledging the work, the bad work that was being done by FA Jagba in that instance as well. Moving on quickly to the main event. I can't remember if I said in the post, if I said in my basis picks that Rudenko was a slightly taller guy, so might hold Jared behind his reach. If I did say that, that was a mistake. I think I was thinking about Andrei Dimitrenko at the time. Or is it Alexander Dimitrenko? One of the two. But I think I was thinking about Dimitrenko when I said that. But if I didn't say that, cool, ignore it. But I'm pretty sure that I didn't. Either way, I predicted 3rd round KO. He ended up getting him out in the 5th. On my accumulator, I remember on the bet I put there was an over under 4.5 rounds. So I put the under because I did expect it to end by the 4th. Ended up ending in the 5th. Wasn't really much to take from it, although Jared Anderson, on this one, the ref actually had said where they can work and where they can't, and he had said for both of them, above the top of the waistband is fine, but that's the limit. Jared Anderson he threw loads of shots below the waistband, and the ref didn't admonish him on one occasion. So I don't know if that's again hometown stuff, or if that's just a case of he didn't feel it was low enough to really argue it. And I guess whereas Rudenko wasn't making a meal of it or complaining of where the shots were going, maybe the refs just thought, okay, well, they're borderline, but they're fine. So no real statement about that one. Quick bit of news over the weekend: the WBC ordered Shakur Stevenson versus Frank Martin for the WBC, I believe it's the vacant title, due to obviously Devin Haney being champion in recess. So I don't know if it's going to be interim changed into a full title as soon as Devin goes up, but I know he is champion in recess now, so that title is vacant. That looks like it's been ordered and it's happening. The purse bids will be for the 5th of September unless a deal can be reached prior to that. So that in itself Very interesting. I might do a separate video on that later on in the week once I get a bit more details, but that's also something very interesting to pick up. With that being said, that's pretty much everything in an... Oh, actually no, there is one last thing. Nico Ali Walsh suffers his first loss, split decision loss. I can't remember the name of the guy, but it was a black guy. I remember I didn't see the fight. It was on the undercard portion, but I saw the results on Twitter. I mean, to be honest, we all knew it was bound to happen very, very soon. I thought he might have got through a couple more before he suffered that loss, but it's happened now. Now I want to see how they keep pushing him, if they keep pushing him, and if they keep associating his name with his grandfather. That will be interesting. But yeah, that's pretty much that. I'm gonna wrap this one up here. That's all of the basic news of the weekend. So thank you very much for watching. I'll be back during the week, as I am not working tomorrow. There might be a video tomorrow. They definitely will start again from Wednesday onwards, as they always do, and then we'll work towards the next week coming up. But that's that. Like and subscribe as always. Thank you for watching. Hope you've enjoyed my thoughts. Leave yours down below. Let me know what you think about all these situations, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.